Tony, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Apart from this annoying box that's now going around to break all my technology this morning, but it's good. I will get it fixed. But at least we're here and we're chatting, which is all that matters.
That's all we
Um,
need.
Tony, thank you for joining us. Good afternoon,
You're
everybody,
welcome.
and welcome back to the Six Sessions. This is the first Six Sessions back in the new Six and Flow offices. Although my wife has now tested positive for COVID, so it's not actually going to happen in the offices. It was going to be the first back in the offices, but unfortunately, I'm now back in the home office. The Six Sessions have given me the opportunity to chat with some amazing people in the growth space, primarily across marketing, sales, and CX, but not always. And today's guest is definitely about growth. She's doing the thing for the people doing the thing. With a lot of sales experience from SDR to a head of role, today's guest understands the role of a salesperson, what they need to support them, and how sales fits within the overall growth model. And that's how she finds herself doing RevOps for the people trailblazing RevOps with Ebsta. I'm absolutely amazed I've not stumbled over my own words yet. From fine arts to recruitment to sales to RevOps, there's quite a bit of personal growth in there too. If you're considering ways to accelerate and perfect growth in 2022, today's guest is someone who's going to shed some light on your next move. Or at the very least, you'll be entertained for 30 minutes on a Friday afternoon. These chats are designed to be short and sweet, but hopefully full of insight, definitely unfiltered, which is what makes it fun for me, even if you do hear some background noises in my house as my kids come back. Joining us from the capital, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Ebsta's very own RevOps wizard, Toni Heavey. Toni, welcome to the Six Sessions.
Great to be here. Really,
So,
really good.
Toni, to kick off, let's talk about the first time we met, which sticks in my mind and will always stick in my mind. And I'm sure I've recounted the story to many, many people since. So, the first time we met, you're one of those kind of, I would categorize you as somebody who is a whiteboard thinking kind of person. So, you like to get
Yeah.
up, scribble things down on a whiteboard. And Ebsta is teams players. I'm not judging you for that a little bit, but but our first call was on Zoom where you
hmm
didn't have a blurred background set up. Teams normally blurred, Zoom not so much. On the board behind you, standard SaaS checklist for this person, this process, do this thing, and
Yeah.
also buy turtle stuff, top of the list.
Yeah.
So I remember being sat on this call with you and all of a sudden reading buy turtle stuff and be like, we have to stop talking. Like, what the hell is this? That is the best Zoom intro call I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I was obviously you're like you go about I'm gonna go speak to our partners here, be super serious and everything, and then you're like, sorry, could I just stop you there, Tony? What are you buying turtle stuff for? I was like, oh my god, why haven't I got my blur on? But yeah, inherited a turtle, and yeah, that's how it went down.
So how's 2021 been for you?
It's been great. It's been really, really good. Lots of change, obviously job change as well. Lots of big decisions, change of job, change of industry. Got a neck tattoo, so I went
Nice.
full effort mode. But yeah, no, it's been really, really good. Really happy, really grounded. Yeah, I couldn't be happier at the moment actually.
Good.
Hmm.
What so the change of career, obviously I know where you've gone, but where did you go? Where
Yep.
did you come from? Where did you go to?
Where did I come from? So previously I was at RG, so Reward Gateway. So they were an employee engagement business. So they've basically facilitated the technology that kind of supports all the different pillars. And then a guy who I previously knew just from chats kind of in the industry and kind of chatting to him about sales development, all these different areas. Guy reached out to me like
And
April
CEO
time.
of Ebsta.
Yeah, CEO of
Yeah.
Ebsta. Yeah, always loved him. He's such a character. Yeah, and he reached out about April time this year. Popped me a WhatsApp, said, "Do you fancy a chat?" And I was like, "Yeah, go on then." Had a chat with him. I was like, "Okay, cool." Then I had a chat with Dan, who's our chief growth officer. Then Dan gave me some bits to read. Went down a YouTube hole for about 8 hours, and yeah, and then here I am.
And so what does Ebsta do? Like I think that's
Ebsta.
probably a good place to start.
Yeah, well, apart from obviously being amazing, so Ebsta is a relationship-centric revenue intelligence platform for B2B commercial teams. So we essentially surface and visualize all of the wonderful bits of data that you kind of scream out for in a commercial team. So your win rates, your average deal cycles, your velocity, all that sort of stuff, all the beautiful bits that you kind of normally knee deep in spreadsheets with. But all of that's kind of underpinned by our ability to be able to codify relationship strength and engagement strength across the entirety of the prospect and the customer journey. So the name of our game really is to provide improved forecasting to be able to remove risk from pipelines, but also support like ABM client bases, as well as basically being able to kind of fully optimize that sales performance across the board as well. So yeah, really nice, beautiful stuff.
Okay, so let's dig into that a bit. So why would I care about relationship strength? Why, like, as in a sales process, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think, why would you care? I think you can have two things that look the same. You can have, like, you're right, you've got two contacts, you've got two accounts, you've got two opportunities. They can be in this, you can have that same static data, you know, like, right, it's in this stage, these things have happened, and wonderful, we're going to hope and pray that they kind of close at the same rate and that sort of stuff. The reason to why you should care is a journey that I've been on as well. So I've come from a proper sales background with KPIs, throw more at it, do this, do that. But to be able to actually understand like the reciprocal relationship and engagement that you have either with a person, either with a buying team, account, or a live opportunity that you've got in your pipeline is just so fundamental to have the insight and the additional, I suppose, data dimensions to be able to work out really what is what. So like outside of traditional CRM, you've got a level of insight, but in order to kind of go that level deeper when you're looking at genuine sales performance and behaviors and skills and all that sort of stuff, to be able to go, right, we're going to put in that and we're going to get out that, it just gives you that extra level of detail that just kind of blows your mind when you first see it, and you're like, wow, why haven't we had this beforehand? So I suppose the caring is it's taking it from good to great.
But it also sits not just in sales, though, right? So like relationships don't just relate to sales process.
No, absolutely not. So, and I think again, a lot of organizations, you tend to see people really only care about opportunities. Like once an opportunity is live, great, then we'll start caring about it. But for me, it's where this can kind of sit, because it can sit at a contact level. It can sit within your ABM strategy to where you're looking at intent and like across the whole ecosystem. That's where you're like, wow, this can sit absolutely everywhere. When you've got like this I suppose this North Star metric that you can apply in different levels of business depending on what your business does, where it is, what it is that you want to do. You can apply it to sales process, you can do it in CS and building out the accounts and making sure that you're cross-selling, upselling to the right people at the right time. Like it's Pandora's box of just amazing beautifuln's.
What's your role at Ebsta? So
My role at
Ebsta
Ebsta.
builds this great relationship platform. What do you
Yeah.
do for Ebsta?
What do I do? So I'm head of Ebsta's internal revenue operations. So like chief problem creator and solver.
So matches
Yeah.
and water.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of we obviously you've got to be practicing what you preach. So we really kind of pride ourselves on being, I suppose, our best case study really. So just making sure that we're in the midst of all the technologies that we kind of integrate into, on top of the CRMs that we integrate into as well. So my job is to kind of get into the bones of absolutely everything, so whether it's optimizing, whether it's building and creating it, but making sure that we've got insight into all the different areas that we ultimately are going to support our clients with as well.
All right, give me some stats. So why if I were to move to like a relationship model, or if I were to start focusing on RevOps, what's it actually going to do for my business? So you're and using you guys as the case study, what kind of numbers can you throw at me?
Right, there's loads of numbers, and I love numbers and I love data, but I'll give you one, right? Just the one that I'm putting in all sales emails at the moment is is if you can, when some of the results that we've seen, right? So you obviously looking at pipeline risk, you're looking at all these different elements that you can do in regards to RevOps. The one metric that I've seen that we were able, we did a B2B benchmark report last financial year, which was incredible. I think we pulled out something like £1 billion worth of pipeline, something incredible like that. Pulled out all the data, understood like what engagement and relationships do alongside these different parts of the pipeline, and we looked at the correlation between relationship and engagement strength and what impact that had on win rates. And you could actually see win rates going from like like 10% up to like 60%. Like, so you could actually see win rates increase by like times 10 just from having this particular metric that you can actually influence. So that's the metric I'm going to give you, that one, times 10 win rates. That's the beauty one.
All right. So RevOps is a kind of a well-used buzzword at the moment, but what does it actually mean? Like, why should companies be considering it?
I think what it actually means, it is definitely a buzzword right now, just as how everything kind of starts. And I think there's such a lack of understanding outside of like the black and white of, right, okay, you deal with tech stack and process and reporting. But I think the reality is that it looks different everywhere that you go. I think no SaaS organization has opened a winning by design book and gone, right, okay, wonderful, let's build it exactly like this. Like everyone's took a different journey. So it just doesn't work like that. So I think depending on kind of who the growth stage that your organization is at, ultimately it needs to basically align to the needs of your organization. So for me, how I would personally interpret RevOps, it's a mindset, it's a way of operating, it's a singular lens to be able to kind of look through. So your North Star is ultimately always going to be revenue. You kind of build and you optimize like your infrastructure and your processes for your teams against that, and make sure that they're aligned to your business goals. That's how I would kind of describe it.
Okay. Where does RevOps normally sit within an organization? So like for you, like individually, what does your team look like and like who you report to, and then extrapolate that to what RevOps looks like across normal organizations? Not that Ebsta is an abnormal organization, but you know what I mean. Other organizations.
Yeah. So over here looks absolutely mental. No.
Those
So
guys.
yeah, where we'd like to be. No. So again, it kind of depends. It's very situational. I think you can sit as an extension of like your normal operation teams that you've got like in sales and your marketing teams, or you can be in like a real nice rate of growth. You're going into like kind of that enterprise side, and you can have dotted lines into finance in the end. Where we're kind of at Ebsta, me. So I'm currently one man band at the moment, kind of depending on kind of where I'm sitting and who I'm kind of working with, but I'm essentially an extension of all commercial teams and also product teams as well. So I directly report into Dan Remedios, which is our Chief Growth Officer.
Yeah.
But I've also got a dotted line into Zach Roberts as well, who's our Chief Operating Officer. So we're kind of like I'm in like the trio of dreams at the moment.
And how did you get into growth? Like you didn't growth, you started in fine arts. Like that is, it's not your normal pathway going from kind of fine arts to RevOps.
No, absolutely not. So I did fine art at university. So I originally wanted to be an art teacher. Yeah. So I took a year out. I started off my first like sales job, which was kind of selling advertisement space, and I absolutely loved it. I don't know if it was the environment, the selling, or whatever it was, but it was just one of the most hilarious jobs that I had. I earned a packet at like 21 as well, so there was no way I'm going back to uni. So I think how did I get into SaaS and end up joining Ebsta? So I was working at I was doing inside sales at an online university. I was reached out to by Reward Gateway, my first job. So I that was like my first kind of taste of kind of like SaaS. I was like I was a first gen outbound SDR. It was absolutely amazing. I absolutely loved it. It was like creative. I had a blank canvas. It was so process driven. It was kind of like you're the expert, go and do it sort of thing. And I just got left to it. So it was absolutely amazing. So I kind of worked my way up there. Did head of sales development in my last couple of years that I was there. I think total was probably there for about 7 years or so. And then I moved over to Ebsta. So it was kind of like it was, although it was like totally nobody goes, oh yeah, do you know what, I'm going to go into sales. Nobody does that. But I kind of got into it on a certain side of things, kind of found that I loved the process side of bits, and I just worked out how to do another little bit and another little bit, and I just kind of kept going from there. And then I just found like a really nice environment where I had some great people around me, some great leadership, and just a lot of ability to be able to be kind of put in at the deep end, but also looked after with a bit of autonomy kind of thrown in there as well.
Everybody that I speak to on these 6 sessions, I think out of the 30, 40 people I've spoken to so far, 2, maybe 3 planned to go into growth, so marketing or sales. The rest of us, myself included, either fell into it or at least ended up in it as a divergence. It's interesting. Well, I've totally lost my place in the questions now. For you, what's the most important growth play for companies at the moment? And so that was the original question. I'm still going to stick to that. So what's the most important growth play for companies at the moment? But also So you ton of sales experience, right? So you grew up through sales. You've done the yards and like SDR, outbound, inbound, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Now that you sit elevated above that, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to sales, but now that you kind of sit in a RevOps position above that, what would be some tips that you would say for a salesperson now going through that same kind of journey? What focus to get the numbers up? How they influence their revenue? Like, do you have any tips or tidbits that you could throw their way to go, here is something that really helped me, and also here's something that helped me now that I know how to do it from the next level?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I suppose like all of the things, right? Okay, so at the moment you've got LinkedIn voice notes, for instance. You've got video, you holding up these whiteboards to be like, hey, I've done my research and this is actually a personal video. I swear, like all of these things, like what 5 years ago weren't really being utilized, right? But for me, the theory, the objectives, the fundamental methodology that sits behind everything doesn't really change that much. Like the way the humans work, the way the business works, that like those things will ultimately kind of look primarily the same right now, but it's all the kind of tools and the bits that it is that you kind of sit on top of that in order to kind of execute on these things. So what I would probably say to like SDRs at like kind of going into their careers right now, or even AEs, anybody really that are kind of going into sales, understand why you're doing something in the first place. Like understand the objective of why a certain thing is in a certain place for a certain reason, because the minutes a new technology or a new thing comes out, you'll know exactly how to kind of effectively utilize it to its best possible way to get the best possible impact. But just learn why things are built the way that they are, and then pretty much anything that you come into contact is just going to be light work after that.
Good tidbit. I like it. I think like so LinkedIn voice notes. I've actually only been hit up by them maybe twice, and both times
Yeah.
I found it super creepy. Like it really doesn't work for me. It just doesn't sit well with me. The video stuff. So video in the sales process, I think, is gold dust because it still allows you to. Well, originally it allowed you to just be different, which I think is when those new tactics fundamentally the baseline is them as you are your, what do they call it, pattern interrupt, like that you're just changing the way that somebody is expecting to receive back from you. But I think now with the video and sales process, it's become more than just a pattern interrupt. It's also an easier way to digest some of that content, and it also humanizes the process and stuff. So but I think for me, like my tip to salespeople would be just focus on the stuff that like don't fall into the trap of using everybody else's template, or like what's the famous one is like, oh, you must not be responding to me because you've fallen down a ditch and you need help, or like that kind of bullshit, like stock response. Don't do that. Do things that are different and personalized to you and personalized to like who you're going after. Okay, so back to the original question, what do you think the most important growth play is for companies right now?
Great question. I think for me, it's always going to be situational. I think you got to understand where it is that you're at. I think growth plays, the reason to why RevOps is so white hot at the moment and why it's just gone astronomical over the last couple of years is because it is an absolute no-brainer. It just makes good sense. And I think once if you're an organization that's kind of got your product market fit, next port of call really is going, right, okay, go to market fit, all your strategy that it is that's kind of attached, fueling that fire over and over again in regards to volume is probably one of the biggest things that I would say that is going to be integral to growth, because volume with that you get to learn as quick as possible, right? So you learn about your market, but you also learn internally about the things that it is that you've built. So I would say the growth play, you want to isolate, you want to understand, you can then improve your infrastructure, the behaviors that are kind of set against it within your teams as well. You'll have a good understanding of like your business level reporting, like your attribution outside. But I would say like focus on your unit economics, grow intelligently alongside like the value that it is that you're providing to the market. Forget about your vanity volume, like inbound leads. Like, oh, we've got 1,000 inbound leads, great, so what? You want to focus on your conversions. Like there is no point of just throwing more at something. Like there's so much to be done within organizations, even in RevOps, like even RevOps that sell RevOps, there's so much to be done to optimize, to just improve these little tiny metrics here, there and everywhere where you don't have to throw the volume at certain things. Like just go internally, look at stuff and affect the incremental bits, because the compound effects of those are astronomical. Like the growth play, start internally first.
So RevOps is about alignment as well, right? So like we're talking about bringing certain teams together, like pointing them in the same direction, then starting to make those incremental gains. I think if you put it into the British cycling parlance. But how do you align teams? Because like historically you have sales, you have marketing blames sales blame marketing. There is historically, not always now, but there's friction between the two. Like what's some of your tips to getting them on the same page?
Do you know what? It's having adult, honest conversations. It's really not that difficult. I think if you're focused on RevOps and aligning people, it is about first and foremost getting your, I won't swear, getting your ducks in a row, right? And being like,
You
right,
can
this is what it
absolutely
is that we
swear on
want to
this.
achieve.
This is
Right,
totally
get
fine.
your shit in order though, right? So it's about getting it like, okay, right, this is our goal. This is what it is that we're looking to achieve, right? And then you need key players in each of your areas that are genuinely aligned to wanting to make a difference and wanting to make an impact. And the minute that you can go, right, okay, wonderful, this is our goal here, this is how it drops into your team, you focus everything on that. I'm going to make sure that I support and enable you and take information from there and feed it in here and get that and inject it over there to make sure that our ecosystem, it's really not that difficult. Like, you just need to have real strong communication lines. You need to have someone that, people in different areas that have got tenacity and give a shit. And it kind of rolls from there. Like, just have honest conversations, keep the feedback loop super, super tight. Make sure that you're having weeklies, make sure you're having monthlies, that you've got reporting, you've got visibility everywhere, but just make sure that people communicate properly. Like, sometimes Slack is the devil, sometimes it's great at the whole channel, all that sort of stuff. But you know what? It really don't hurt just to pick up the phone as well.
I've got 2 questions from LinkedIn. First one, my first ever job was in sales and I did learn loads very quickly, but unfortunately got burnt out after nearly 2 years. Any tips on how to avoid that state?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm really passionate about mental health, especially within sales, within commercial teams as well. I think you need to be really super strict with yourself. Nobody, no business is going to turn around and be like, "Excuse me, you're working far too hard and making too much money for us." Like, that's not going to happen. So you have to really take responsibility for yourself and know that you've got to stay close to yourself. Make sure that you're giving yourself good breaks, that you do having that. You cut yourself off at the end of the day, like say, right, no, I'm not doing that sort of stuff. Invest in your these different things that are going to allow you to have a bit more brain space. So whether it is taking the space away from technology, turning off at a certain point in the night, meditating, like whatever it is that you need to do to kind of improve and take a break, whatever meditation might look, it might be like go play the drums for an hour, whatever it is, but take responsibility yourself, because nobody's going to turn around and go, oh, do you know what, you're really burnt out, have a week off. Not going to happen. So just invest in yourself as much as you invest in your career.
I think it helps to remember why you're doing the job as well. So like even if your driver within that role is going to make loads of money, why are you making that money? Like, what are you planning to do with that money? And remember to actually focus on like the activity of spending it and like the process that you're going through. So don't just get sucked into the make more money. Next question. Michael Graham has asked, how focused are RevOps on ABM versus wider industry-based targeting and so on?
Really, really good question. I think they're two the same. It's just two strategies in two different markets. I think ABM is always been, I mean, ABM's been around for years. It's only just more and more highlighted now because people have technology to be able to enable it. So ABM is, it's beautiful because you obviously you've got these data points, you've got technology, you've got intent data, you've got revenue intelligence, wonderful technology. Ebsta provides, but then also you got the lead gen place as well. Yeah, I really wish I'd mentioned something before, but I think they're both equally as important. I think RevOps is there to facilitate all parts of the market in different ways. And I think the more access we've got to tools and data, like you just use them in different ways, I think, we should be everywhere across the business in regards to what's important. If obviously you're only selling into enterprise and you've only got a finite amount of organizations to kind of go after, then you're going to be solely focused there. But if you're like B2B and you're looking for more of a plug and play solution and you're hitting that SMB corporate market, you're obviously going to expand more into marketing, more into kind of automation and where you can kind of real go out to market at scale. So I think it kind of just depends, but I think everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
So Other than the 6 sessions, how do you keep
Mhm.
up to date with what's going on in the growth space? Like how do you stay ahead of the curve, learn, who do you follow,
Yeah,
that kind of stuff?
I think obviously you've got key players. For me, there is a lack of, not a lack of thought leaders within the RevOps space, because that's a complete lie. But I think you wanna you want to know use cases, right? It's all well and good going like, oh, this is what RevOps does. Wonderful. How do I do this particular thing? So I think it's really important to follow thought leadership of CS, of sales development, of closing roles, of products, whatever it might be. So I think you just need to almost have your hands in absolutely every single pie. But some of the people that I follow, so you've got Andrew Chen, love a bit of Mark Roberg, Jacko van der Kuich, literally can't put his stuff down. Absolutely amazing. But I would say
There's
subscribe to
Big Dan
everything.
Remedios as well. Don't forget.
Big Dan, gotta love a bit of Big Dan. Yeah, follow Dan around all day, asking questions all day. So go away. No, but yeah, absolutely. Like surround yourself with some really good people. Just ask questions. Like curiosity is just the one. I think the more you ask questions, the more it is that you're going to learn. Google alerts are your best friends. Set up Google alerts for things that it is that you're interested in, that you want to know more. You'll have a load of crap in there, but you'll also have some really good stuff in there. And then you'll find like more of the stuff from the horse's mouth. So you can start sub to different places, and just make a conscious effort to put aside some learning time for yourself. The only way really is to learn and understand a little bit more, but just absorb yourself in whatever it is that you want to do.
So I asked the same question to Terence Kwok 2 weeks ago. He's a Vidyard, and he was saying he like and this is kind of it formulated my thinking around it. Is I now where I am in my career now, I think the mark of knowing that I'm working with a really good, talented team internally as well is that I have less and less appetite to like go external for knowledge because I'm
Yep.
soaking up a lot of that from like the internal team as well. So like
Yep.
that it's the first time in my career where I feel like that it's become as much of in focus the internal knowledge as the external knowledge, and it's nice to like pull those things together as well. And
Completely
like
agree.
absolutely, you've got some like pretty smart people.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the, like you said, like I think as you get older, as you get more experience, you're like, do you know what? I actually need to be surrounded by some really wicked people, not just like internally, like value driven, and you want to be around people that are kind of, I suppose, aligned to the same things that you are as well. And you're absolutely right. Like when I got here, I was like, the half of the charm is the fact that you've got really beautiful people around you, but also I'm like, wow, I get to tap into your brain every single day, and I can ask you this, I can ask you that, and really that is just it's just so invaluable.
My favorite question: what's your biggest career fuck up so far? The one that you learned the most from?
Do you know what? Don't have many fuck ups, Rich. No, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that there's been any major fuck ups, but there's definitely been some deep, and steep learning curves. And for me, I think many people that are kind of in similar roles to myself. There tends to be like a consistency across us all, but for me, prioritization has always been a real difficult one. Like everything is important, absolutely everything. So I think there's been times where I haven't really had that North Star, where like I've not done things in the right order or given things the right attention in the ways that it is that I've needed to. So it never really impacted me in previous roles because I was in a bit of a corp. You've got other people kind of doing bits. You can kind of sit in the background a little bit. Um, so I think when I moved to Ebsta, I found out pretty quickly that you can't just operate like that without any consequences. You can't just crack on. So I think very quickly Dan was like, right, okay, your North Star is impacting revenue. And I was like, okay, cool, got that. So I think when you can start with that, everything else kind of then has to come second, and you can obviously be like very very efficient. But I think working with Dan, who's obviously he leads up the vision, he gives you the why and the what, and then having the dotted line into Zach has been incredible because they're both incredible operators in their own domains. But I think normally I'll go away and I'll build things from my own head, go to level 27, and I'm like, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, because I'm so used to kind of working in silo and it doesn't really matter outside of what it is that I'm doing. So I'm like the kind of the master of my own little universe. But working with them both has kind of taught me to one, slow down, build something simple within level one, learn the foundations, be able to kind of like document, iterate, govern, and like then add in my layers from there. And it's ultimately allowed me to kind of scale my skill set as well. But no major fuck ups, just maybe a couple of side eyes from Dan now and then where I'm like, okay, I'll get back on my lane and I'll go down this way. But yeah, so I think just highlighting probably my own development areas and being like, right, okay, you actually need to, it's not about multitasking anymore. It's about single tasking and getting your head down and making sure you're doing the right thing.
I'm really happy you've had a strong and steady career, but I was hoping for more fireworks, if I'm being totally honest.
I've had plenty of personal fuck-offs.
What excites you most about marketing and growth right now?
Oh, think about this one. Okay, I think it's ever changing, isn't it? I think everything is ever changing. I think with tech, how humans kind of communicate, how it flows into like behavioral economics. We've gone from memes to GIFs to platforms now like TikTok, to where they've just sparked like a brand new way of like expressing culture and language and all these different things. And I find it absolutely fascinating because these trends ultimately start to filter into the way people advertise, the way people buy, and how we consume. And what I find exciting about marketing and growth and just business in general is, I suppose, how it translates into me is being able to kind of build these infrastructures, these ecosystems that kind of that can adjust and align and kind of evolve alongside all these different mad things. Like how business was 5 years ago is really linear sales process. Now it's like, what do we do now? Oh, we just optimize when they just get to this point now. So I think for me, the exciting bit is that it just never stops, and it's like, right, okay, what information is going to flow where? How is it going to translate into how people buy or how we market and all those different bits? So, yeah, for me, it's understanding what these impacts will be 2-3 years down the road, what RevOps will eventually turn into, how it will manifest, and yeah, where we go with it all.
And what are your plans for 2022, like personally and for Ebsta?
Oh, I think I've definitely found my home in regards to domain, but also with Ebsta as well. I think landing a RevOps role within a RevOps technology business is kind of the inception kind of dream world. I think the plan for me personally now is to kind of just go deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole, get really stable, and really just keep going along this line. I think with that comes Ebsta as well. Obviously, we want to continue to take our platform to market. We want to continue to kind of democratize this technology, not just kind of for leadership, but also to the me's back in the days, the AEs out there, to really build a community of the high performers that really care about the same things that it is that we do as well, and just kind of build that community of kind of like data-driven underdogs and eventually take over the market and world.
Data-driven underdogs. I like that.
Yep,
It's good.
I'm going in that one.
Yeah. So, big top line question to finish with. What's next in growth? Where should people be focusing?
I think it probably translates to similar to your other question. I think how people buy, how people consume. I think we've got to some extent start throwing out the rule book on the way that we do things, the way that we look at things. I think even small things like internally, like we got our graphic designer to look at some of the dashboards for our users, to look at the ultimate like user experience. And I think RevOps, like the focus on RevOps, aligning it to where you are, where you're at, and like your needs, and obviously doing things differently. I think where we've got to go, well, it's always looked this way. Like forget the way that it looks. Like what could it be? Like get a whiteboard out, start sketching up some stuff, and forget what the roles used to look like and the silos that it used to be. And I think RevOps has taught me that, do you know what? Yeah, frameworks and all these different things and these business or go-to-market strategies are all wonderful, but you know what? You can tear them all up and stitch them all together and kind of have what it is that you want with the different outputs that you want. So yeah, I would say forget vanity metrics, forget how things look, build something beautiful based on what it is that you need.
Toni, thanks for doing the 6 sessions with me. If anyone wants to follow up with you or find out about more about Ebsta or connect with you, how do you want them to do it?
So if you go onto my LinkedIn, my email, my Twitter, and my mobile numbers there, feel free, all of the above.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next week.